Welcome to Wizards of the Tower.
Roleplay.
And in this episode, more Roll of the Class. Welcome to Wizards of the Tower.
Roleplay.
And we're going to be hitting upon more of the classes, mainly from Pathfinder, because these are all Pathfinder ones.
Yep.
Not that familiar with a lot of the 5e and whatever that they've had, but
Well,
I'm sure you could come up with some of the same classes in 5e if you wanted to.
they've got some different combinations, that's for sure. I mean, in Pathfinder, you've got your standard ones: cleric, paladin, ranger, rogue, witches, barbarians, that sort of thing. And I know in 5th edition they've got some really sort of unusual combinations. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're going to hit upon starting off with the Inquisitor.
yeah,
Now, I've actually played an Inquisitor.
yeah, you did. It was in a canned campaign for Pathfinder within the big realm of Galarian. Hopefully, people who are familiar with Pathfinder know about Galarian. That's their world, their big giant world that they play in. So tell us a little bit about your Inquisitor.
Well, within the Galarian, you can actually, if you follow one of the deities, you can actually be a dominatrix, and that's what she was. She had a, she took it when we started the adventure, and after we did the first adventure path, we all got money and she got a building.
Oh yeah,
and
her
she
temple.
turned it into a brothel, basically.
Well, it was her temple, but the temple was actually a brothel,
Right.
if I remember right.
Yeah.
And it was an unusual deity that they
Callista.
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 Yeah, Callistra. Yeah.
Right.
So I remember that. I mean, in that game, I played a rogue named
Halfling.
Leech, a halfling rogue named Lucius Leechfoot, and we had a lot of fun. Basically playing, with the game and playing with each other, and we captured or recovered an interplanar artifact.
Right.
And this was another way that campaigns die. Is essentially our DM wanted us to take the interplanar artifact and
Jump through the planes.
However, our players were all chaotic.
Pretty much chaotic.
And the thing was worth 100,000 gold, so we wanted to sell it.
And we were all like,
And we didn't really want to.
4th level.
We didn't really want to do plane jumping because we were all like 4th level, and we could see that would result in our imminent death when we jump onto the plane of fire and stuff like that. So, yeah, that campaign came to.
Yeah. So Inquisitors are a lot like a cleric in a lot of ways. They have a lot of the same abilities that a cleric has. They're not so much of the healing based. They're great for gathering information.
Yeah.
Because as the name implies, Inquisitor. Now there was a campaign I ran that was a very haunted base, and the Inquisitors were very feared.
Oh yeah. So they were more evil in that one. I mean, they were more of the Spanish Inquisition type of, kind of like Torquemada. They were the more Miguel de Torquemada. They were more of like the watchdogs of the faith, and so they were feared by everyone because of their violent tactics.
Yeah, and Arcane was basically illegal.
Yeah, and so they were rooting out wizards and witches. So.
Right, or other people that used arcane kind of spells. And Tom actually has a character that was in that, so he had to kind of hide from it. But
I had this
Inquisitors are kind of fun, and playing this one as a dominatrix was very fun.
Yeah,
very fun.
The thing about like Inquisitors, I think you could play them just about any way you want.
You could.
You didn't have to play them in any kind of prescribed manner.
No.
They're kind of an interesting character because they can fit in a lot of different realms.
They can.
I mean, imagine if you had a realm that was sort of like a 1600s, 1700s realm. They'd be like witchfinders.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you had, say, like a Middle Ages or Dark Ages almost, they'd be investigators.
Right.
So, investigators for the crown or something like that. I'm kind of a fan of like medieval mysteries where people, live, in the 1300s and they They usually have like a person who solves different mysteries, at the behest of the king or the marshal and that sort of thing. And so there's that, but so you could play an Inquisitor over various different settings, and you could play them as good or bad as you want them to play.
Yeah.
You know, the thing about Inquisitors, I think, is they're really int based, aren't they?
No, I believe they were wisdom based, wisdom and charisma.
Definitely got a lot of high int though for them, because you have a lot of skill sets.
Yeah. I would recommend playing one if you haven't ever played one.
Yeah.
And you don't have to play it as the way I did it, but that's just the way I saw it. And one of the deities had Inquisitors, so that's the way I wanted to play her. But it's if you didn't want to have a cleric in the group, an Inquisitor is a good choice to kind of fit in with the cleric.
Yeah, because you did have some healing spells.
Had some healing spells and great for gathering information and gathering information. We're going to go to the next one. Some people will call it Magus. Some call it Magus. It's however you want to look at it.
Yeah. That's essentially kind of a priest, aren't they?
No, they're a
monk?
a fighting wizard.
Oh, a fighting wizard.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So they enchant their blades.
Oh.
So they're not quite as frontline, but they're closer frontline, and they can enchant their blades to do magical damage and all sorts of kind of fun stuff.
Has we ever encountered a Magus in a group?
Oh gosh, I think once there was somebody who played a Magus, but it's kind of an interesting character to play. And I know that I believe there's even in 5e, I think they've even got a Magus type character where you enchant your weapons and do all sorts of things through your weapons.
Wizard.
Yeah, it's basically a fighting wizard.
Can they wear armor?
They can wear some armor.
Okay.
Yeah, heavier armor than what a wizard can wear.
Well, because wizards can't wear any armor. So.
Yeah, unless they start taking feats, which could interrupt their magic.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. I mean, I always think of a Magus as being kind of like a priest or like a learned kind of a monk, but I guess in the Pathfinder realm, having him being like a magic using wizard that fights kind of makes sense, because that's kind of a niche that you just don't run into that much.
Yeah.
They're not a core class, right? They're
one of the sub classes in one of the other books. Now, while we say it's kind of a fighter wizard, it's not like dual classing or multi-classing as a fighter wizard, because you're casting your spells literally through your weapon.
Okay.
So you can enchant your weapon to do electrical damage or fire damage or other kind of cool fun things.
Okay, well, I mean, electrical damage. I mean, that sounds like Skyrim.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, that sounds like That sounds like something right out of Skyrim, because of course you can enchant your weapons to do all sorts of damage in there. That's all in that game is nothing but magic using from start to end. Even if you're a fighter, and you can still do magic.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. I guess I never thought of that way. Why don't we have more people playing them?
I don't know. In my realm, I cut the classes down to the core rulebook.
Core rulebook, yeah.
Unless it's more Wicca, then I've had some of the other classes.
Okay.
And I think Magus was one of them. It's just that you had to be careful, because Inquisitors would come after you because you're arcane spellcasting.
Yeah, I mean, in that world, if you had actual Inquisitors who were after Maguses, but what if you had a world where being a Magus was fine?
Yeah.
Then you just have magic users. Yeah.
Now, in our current campaign, we have an NPC who's an Oracle.
Yep.
And Oracles are very cleric based.
Yeah.
They have the healing. They can't do the bursts, and they're not good against undead, but they get things that are kind of, whether they're touched by their deity, which ours is touched by his deity, but they have a fault to them. They always have a fault, whether they're deaf or they're blind or they're crippled. They always have a fault.
Yeah.
I don't really see the oracles in Pathfinder like you'd see like the Oracle of Delphi of history. They're not as gaining, or at least maybe at really high levels they might be. But at the level that Hrolf is, and I think he's 6th level, his abilities are very cleric based.
Yeah, I mean,
very cleric based.
That's an oracle, and like the Oracle of Delphi, which everybody always brings up. They're just basically a magic person who imparts specific knowledge to people.
Right.
Usually about the future, or about your fate. Well, that's not what our Oracle does in our group at all. Our Oracle is more like a fighting kind of cleric in a way with a flaw.
He doesn't really fight, but
He can fight.
He can fight.
Yeah.
He's not a very good fighter.
Nobody can.
And his armor, he can't wear much armor.
No, but his magical abilities, to me, seem more like they're mind affecting.
He's a great buffer.
Oh,
Buffer and a
too.
debuffer.
Yeah,
That's
buffer and a
what
debuffer,
his main
yeah.
job in the group is
Yeah.
to buff and debuff, and then heal as a backup if he needs to.
Yeah.
Now with his curse or whatever you want to call it, like I said, he's God touched, so he actually has some abilities. He's very cold to the touch. He can actually do cold damage, and it's because he's touched by the goddess of winter, and that's the way I've played it. Now that's in an additional book that's not in one of the core books or the advanced guide. It's one of the others further down, but I wanted Rolf to be touched by the deity that is basically touching him.
Now I feel in our group that Rolf really doesn't play up to his potential. Because he's an NPC and we've got a bunch of NPCs, you have to just give him like 10% of your attention. And he's never played it. I figure if we had a character we had a player in our group who was playing Rolf 24/7, I think he would totally live up to his potential.
Yeah.
And he would be able to do a lot more mind affecting, buffing, debuffing, all sorts of affecting sorts of spells, and he would be a lot more effective.
Now he can do cold damage as a burst in a cone, but he's never been able to really do that because one, you're either fighting monsters who are immune to the cold, or it's such a chaos in the fight that he doesn't want to hit his own party members.
Yeah, that too, and he doesn't want to get that close to the other fighters because he's squishy.
He's very squishy.
He can take a lot of damage. But I feel that if he was being played properly, he would get his mage armor up or something, or he would buff himself.
He doesn't have mage armor, but he does try to buff himself as much as he does the party.
Well, he would buff himself to protect himself somehow, and he would get right into the thick of things. Now what are his special abilities? Is he super wise, super intelligent? What is he?
His intelligence is very high.
Okay.
Now he actually oracles are more wisdom based.
Okay.
But the way that he was initially designed, I really wasn't sure where he was going to go when the adventure went. It just kind of how things happened.
Okay.
That he became an oracle.
Okay.
And I think I might have actually pulled from the class hat, and that's how he determined. So his abilities aren't as strong in some things, but he's smart. He's very smart, and he's given him a lot of information when he can, without me giving too much as a DM.
I feel that he could play that intelligence up.
Yeah.
Like he could have a broad, almost like bardic knowledge. He could play this broad spectrum of intelligence up to the point where he knows something about everything.
Right.
Which would help us get in and out of problems.
That, and he's diplomatic. He's got a high enough charisma.
There's another thing, high charisma. Talk his way in and out of stuff.
Yeah, it's not really high, but I think his charisma was like 13 or 14, and with his skills, it bumps up enough that his diplomacy and things are pretty high, and the party typically wants him to talk, but I'm the DM, so it makes it tough. And I'd rather hand him to a party member to say, okay, you're going to role play at this time. You're going to play Rolf, and I think that might be where we're headed for him.
To me, it just seems like he's being undervalued.
Yeah.
Truly, like he could take a central role in our adventure, but because he's an NPC, we basically have an adventure party of fighters and a couple clerics, and we kind of need somebody to take command of the party, and lead them to someone who's super smart, who's got a plan, who's got a vision, and take them down the road they need to go.
Yeah. We're going to jump over to the summoner. Nobody has ever played a summoner in any of our games. A summoner basically does exactly that. They summon and think of him kind of like a wizard that can summon monsters and creatures to help fight and gather information and do things for them. Not a lot of experience with a summoner.
Well, I mean, we've had people in the group before, different players, who've summoned a lot of animals.
Right,
to
but
do their
never
fighting
the summoner class.
Never the summoner class.
Yeah.
Now, the thing about summoning a lot of animals is, it's interesting because I tried to do it a few times, and it can work, but really, you're just kind of standing back while your crocodile goes after the bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, what? You know, I'm going to summon a crocodile and I'm going to go over here.
And the thing with summoning is you summon a creature and then it doesn't get to do anything until the next round.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, it can be really useful. Like we've used earth elementals to get out of caves.
Yeah.
We use fire elementals to start fires. We've used water elementals to like divert water to keep us from drowning and that kind of thing. So that can be very useful if you can do that. But typically, you know, what can you do as a summoner? I mean, can you summon? You got to be careful of what you're summoning too. What are you going to summon? Demons?
And well,
animals?
So which bring you to the current
Undead?
game.
I mean, what are you going to summon?
In the current campaign, there are no demons and devils in my world.
Yeah.
So when people summon, it's actually limited to creatures of the world. So you can't just summon a demon or a devil to fight for you because they don't exist in my world.
I guess in a way, I kind of look at a summoner as something like it's very world specific.
Yeah.
You know, okay, we're in a desert world. Okay, the summoner can summon scorpions. Well, that's helpful.
Yeah.
You know, okay, we're in an Arctic world. The summoner can summon scorpions. All right, well, I mean, ice scorpions? What? So, you know, I want to play a dolphin, you know, give me a break. You know, so that kind of stuff. You know, I just figure that if you have a summoner, they're going to have to play it as something other than just a summoner.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way I feel about it. We had a guy who kept summoning those crocodiles. And it was just kind of dumb because we'd get in a fight, he would summon a crocodile, and then he would go stand in the back while his crocodile did the damage. It's like, what is your character?
Yeah.
What is your character doing? How does your character interact? What do you do? Just summon things and go wander off and go have a beer? You know, while your animal companion fights? I don't know. I just kind of feel that maybe if you play it differently, you know, to the point that it becomes a cohesive part of the group instead of just some standalone character, maybe it would work.
Yeah. So the next one, I didn't do enough research on when we were doing this, is the shifter. And the shifter basically is someone who can turn into an animal shape. It's kind of like a druid, I guess.
Well, why would you have a shifter when you can actually have a druid?
Shifters are protectors of the druidic circles, avengers of nature.
That's a druid.
It's kind of like a druid.
All right.
Shift aspect, claws, wild empathy.
Kind of sounds redundant, in my opinion.
It's a very redundant type character. Maybe a little more fighting based aspect of animal.
Now, what could be cool?
Shifter with claws, so you can become Wolverine.
Well, that could be cool if you're more fighting based.
Yeah.
Think about a human then shifts into a Wolverine character or a bear, like Bjorn.
At third level, their claws become magical based.
There you go, magic weapons. So I could see a shifter could be pretty interesting. Yeah. Maybe more martial than a druid. A druid's, you know, they're typically kind of priesty and they hold back and they, you know, they're kind of more religion based. A shifter may be just a straight out fighter.
Yeah. Can turn into all sorts of fun creatures.
Well,
bats, bears, bulls, boars, crocodiles, dinosaurs, dolphin. I'm playing a dolphin.
I want to play a dolphin. Yeah. All right.
Wild empathy.
I could see that. I could see a shifter being fun. You know, especially if you play it more combat based. Remember, you know, that's the thing about Pathfinder. A lot of the stuff we do is combat based. It truly is. It's not all, you know, oh, we're going to go over here, we're going to investigate the old widow and find out why she's hoarding the box of gold, etc., etc. Usually it's, oh yeah, we're going to kick in the door, take out the orcs, rescue this guy, you know, burn the city to the ground, and then make our way back.
Yeah.
So I think a shifter could be really useful in something like that, you know? I think so.
Yeah, 9th level, they can actually shift, do the chimera aspect, so they get 2 creatures that they can turn into at one time.
There you go. An owl bear.
An owl bear. Ooh.
There's going to be an owl bear on the big screen here coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about an elephant that flies?
Dumbo. Shifting to Dumbo mode. Okay.
Remember that old nursery rhyme we used to birdie birdie in the sky? I'm sure glad that cows don't fly.
Mm-hmm. Flying cows. We'll have to look into that sometime. If we ever get into a campaign and we can have someone take a look at that and see if that's something they want to look into building as a character.
All right, with that, we're going to end this episode of Wizards of the Tower.
Role play.
And may all your adventures be epic.
And keep on rolling.
And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.